So we were looking at the green body build. To finish these off, health risks of green people, they love work, because they run on their adrenals. So they're workaholics and so tend to work, as I say, until we drop. Once the adrenal glands have become exhausted, recovery takes time. So it takes a lot to get a green person down. They've got to be really pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. But at the same time, once they have hit the floor, then it's quite difficult to get up again. Okay, so require a lot of rest and suitable nutritional intervention, sometimes needing glandular tissue extracts. So there are a few problems and issues that we come across in life where sometimes a glandular tissue extract may be required. And one of those is tomorrow is the ailing or failing heart. So in that case, heart tissue extract may be actually required for a person entering into heart failure situation. But we'll talk about that. And I do find that there are times when adrenal tissue extract is important. And we'll see that again tomorrow because you can pick up adrenal exhaustion in the second heart sound, as we'll see. So they tend towards a higher blood pressure, especially when they've got hyperadrenia. So when they go, they're tending to get high blood pressure. They're always sensitive to nickel. And in a minute we're going to see where nickel comes from. So should avoid jewellery, piercings, watch straps and buckles containing this metal. The biggest source, and I had no idea this, is in the refining of vegetable oils. And especially when they take it into margarine. They go through a nickel catalyst. So for green people, bad oils and margarine particularly, definitely no, because there's a lot of nickel in there. Food intolerances, casein, which is the protein from cheese, can be a problem, not always, and certainly unpasteurized cheese is fine. So unpasteurized cheese, and you're getting more and more unpasteurized cheeses coming in now in the supermarkets, and there's some real delicious ones out there. And just like with the unpasteurized milk, you can get used to unpasteurized cheese and get that into that. And people with cheese sensitivities can often take that. There's a lot of sheep unpasteurized, a lot of goat, as well as cow ones. So tend to go and move towards buying unpasteurized. Green ones, it's the cooked cheese. Cooked ordinary cheese cooked is deadly for us for some reason. It denatures the protein in some way, and we feel heavy and tired and snore and grunt and all sorts of things. And it's that cooked cheese. Genetically, they have difficulty metabolizing solanines. We were talking about what is solanine. Solanine is an alkaloid toxin, very, very poisonous to green people because we got the short straw as far as detoxifying it. So in the case of solanine, which is in potato, it's the green and the skins of potatoes, particularly new potatoes. It's in tomatoes, it's in green peppers, and it's in aubergines, and probably in green chilies as opposed to red chilies. Okay, so those sort of deadly nightshade foods, as they're called, they paralyze. The solanine paralyzes the production of acetylcholine. So what you tend to find is mostly parasympathetic nervous system problems. My own experience with it is I call it the potato or heavy leg syndrome. Okay, so what we're looking at is the deadly nightshade family, and these inhibit the acetylcholine production. So we know that the neurotransmitter, which contracts the muscle in every single voluntary muscle in the body at the neuromuscular junction, is acetylcholine. So if you inhibit the production of acetylcholine, that's when you find you can't contract your muscles very well, and so they get heavy. So you have a night out on the town with lots of potatoes and tomatoes. So what I get personally is heavy leg syndrome, where you can't put one foot up in front of the other. And we used to find this a lot when last couple of years we used to do a lot of teaching in Athens, and it was the classic Greek salad, which is aubergines, potatoes, tomatoes, in one form aubergines, that's right, and tomatoes, potatoes, and green peppers, of course, in the Greek salad. And then by the Sunday you could hardly lift your legs up. But the antidote, the only antidote I find, is lemon balm, not lemongrass, lemon balm. And you need a good amount of it. I usually take about 10 cc's of it, 10 ml of it, and it clears it out very quickly in 20 minutes to half an hour, and you feel a lot better. But it's great stuff when you've got an acute toxicity. But it catches us out. We were saying, was it to you, Kevin, about lemon balm and the solanine foods earlier? Because it catches you out when you've got green people and you don't think about the solanines as a food. And often with the eye position, it'll come up with the eyes to the right and down, indicating an allergy, whereas you would have thought it would have shown as a chemical. But it shows us the food that the people were eating. And remember, greens, go for the potatoes, the tomatoes, and so on. And there's a threshold. Because it's a chemical sensitivity, an endogenous one, once it gets above that threshold, the symptoms start, and the paralysis and the inhibition of the acetylcholine occurs. Because the person weakens to those solanine foods, you can't tell whether they're there or whether they're there. Okay, it's only by removing them and getting them below the threshold that they get the relief of the symptoms. So it may be 2 weeks, 3 weeks of giving it up before you get down and see success, or it may go very quicker. In which case, I always try and persuade people to take the lemon balm to speed the process up. Okay, get it down below. Emotions, they tend to have the unconscious emotion are not feeling loving. So remember, our concept with the red people is they don't feel lovable or worthy of love, and the green people's is the unconscious emotion of not being able to give out enough love to the world and to themselves. Okay, green body type, good size, Viking, typical, muscular, tall, big hands, remember, good hands for making bread. So the fingers are strong, square, muscular. The palm is muscular. Fingers and palm lengths tend to be sort of on the equal side, whereas the red one is the long, thin fingers, sometimes with the knuckles. So above 5'8" and 5'9", 5'8" for men. Okay. So diet, the Pritikin diet generally, basic sort of diet, plenty of fruit, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, as we said, we thrive on very much, particularly the fresh ones there, starchy vegetables, but not the potatoes so good. Avoid as much as the solanine foods, the potatoes, tomatoes, etc., and cooked cheese. Supplements. Now the supplements are rather different from the red, and this is for a different reason, of course. Vitamin B1 here, as opposed to B2. So remember, B1 is a vasoconstrictor, B2 is a vasodilator. B6, pyridoxine, folic acid, B12. Everybody seems to need folic acid and B12. Everybody needs zinc. Interesting, isn't it? And the answer to this must be it's being depleted in the foods across the world, not just in red, greens and blues. Choline. Now choline, like inositol, is a lipotrophic factor. It helps to break fats down. It helps to get the cholesterol, piggybacked by phosphatidylcholine, back to the liver to be made into bile. So it helps us to metabolize our bile fats. Okay. Minerals, boron. We don't know too much about boron. It's used for bone density building, maybe other uses. Copper, we need. And again, copper is important with a lot of enzymes, as we'll see in a minute, particularly with vitamin C. The copper tyrosinase, organic copper, is a vital component of the vitamin C complex. Selenium, again, probably selenium is one of those that converts T4 to T3 to the active form of thyroid. And it also works to recycle glutathione peroxidase enzymes, so it's very important for detoxifying a lot of hormones and toxins. Silica, good for nails, teeth, all the collagen, and zinc, which is good for everything. Again, vitamins, minerals, should be taken 1, 2 or 3 times a day with meals in water. Oils. Now, we're fairly fortunate here. Grapeseed, hazelnut, peanut, and sesame. Now, there's something common to all those oils, and they're all primarily omega-6, and not omega-3 or a blend, omega-3, 6, and 9, like in the red. So green people are much better on the northern sort of oils, and the predominant omega-6. Now everybody says, oh, we got too much omega-6 in the diet already, as opposed to omega-3. Now you've got alpha-linolenic acid, which is the omega-3, and linoleic acid, which is the omega-6, okay, which you get in the vegetable oils. Now everybody says, oh, you get more than enough of that. But the reality is you don't get, you're starving. Most people are starving of omega-6 oils because what they eat is junk oil. Yes, they get them in, but they have them all hardened, trans, or oxidized. When did you last have a good spoonful of organic cold-pressed oil in your diet? They said, well, I always have vegetable oil. I always have a pot of olive oil, or I have a pot of this or a pot of that. But they don't actually have good cold-pressed organic oil in their diet and have 2 or 3 spoonfuls. And we find the average people need 2 or 3 spoonfuls of good oil in their diet every day. So it's not just a deficiency, it's literally a culinary importance. So all these oils are cold pressed and organic, and as Jill said, we use the grapeseed now in a number of the toiletries. Quite difficult to get. We get it from France, but it's quite difficult to get because you've got to have a grape growing area, okay, because that's where the grapes come from, obviously, to get the organic as far as the seed oil is concerned. So ours all come in from France, as does the hazelnut oil. The peanut and the sesame were the original oils that we called the wonder oil, and we'll see that they come into their own again a little later on in relationship to coenzyme Q10. So these are the 4 oils for the green people. Again, all oils should be taken with the evening meal and never cook. So which oil should I cook with? Sunflower, that's it, or coconut. Okay. And if I've got a guest round who's a red, I certainly shouldn't get cooked with olive oil. I get told off. They can have olive oil as their salad dressing or mayonnaise, but not to cook with. Herbs and spices, rosemary. What did I say rosemary was good for? Iodine, wasn't it? Okay, very important for iodine. Good detoxifier, and we'll see in many other ones. And lemon balm. Okay, again, detoxifier the solanines. The spices, cumin, ginger, and star anise. Lovely mixture here. And again, the spices mixed as a capsule for the gut are good for parasites. Okay, very good for getting rid of parasites. So they should be organic, and again taken as a beverage or as the capsule with the 3 spices for treating parasites. Weight gain, generalized increase of aldosterone, which is the mineralocorticoid, increases the water retention. So we tend to gain weight very quickly with water, and at the same time when we're burnt out, we lose it. So people can lose incredible amounts of weight, but it's loss of water, and they can gain it. This person can gain 7 pounds in one day when they're under stress, but when they push over the top and the stress goes into a hypo, they lose it. So you can get rapid weight loss with hypoadrenia. So hyperadrenia tends to lead towards hypertension, and tomorrow we'll see that that increases the second sound, heart sound, when the aortic and pulmonary valves shut. So when that makes a loud noise, it means the pressure is very big in the arteries. Okay? So if the second sound is very quiet, it tends to mean the blood pressure is low and the adrenals are hypo. So you can pick out in the heart sound, when you've got a quiet second sound, this is always a sign of low adrenal function. Okay? So the heart reflects everything that's going on in the hormonal system. Weight gain, as I said, watery all over, and we gain weight when we're hyper and we lose it when we're hypo. Lastly, and we did this in the cancer module, is the blue body type. Am I still on? All right. It's coming through. Okay. Build is these are the shorter people, so they have the shorter height. They're governed by their gonads, obviously the ovaries in women, testes in the man. The gonads produce a range of sex hormones, both males and females. Progesterone is important in the synthesis, as we'll see, of elastin, their elasticity. Testosterone in the synthesis of muscle, and the estrogens in the deposition of body fat. So the key is below 5'5", generally 5'6" for a male. Okay, so they're on the shorter percentile. Men tend to be shorter and stouter with soft musculature, and often have a lot of body hair, but sometimes on the back, but certainly on the front. Okay, so these are the hairier males. That's the males, okay, which are hairy on the front. Okay, so the hair is usually thick and coarse, and skin tends to be smooth and elastic. And the key thing is small hands. So they've got small hands, and the fingers we'll see as if the top digits are missing, and the fingers are slightly tapered. Okay, so you can see the small hand. Okay, health risks. Blue people have considerable physical fight with weight gain. So it's all about weight because of the estrogens laying down fat. They're sensitive to many estrogen-mimicking chemicals, especially those in toiletries and cosmetics. So most of the chemicals that are in toiletries and cosmetics are pseudoestrogens, and they mimic and lock onto the estrogen receptor. And when estrogen locks onto the estrogen receptors in the cells, it does its function, changes the gene configuration, and drops away and is metabolized. These don't. They stay locked on. They're much harder to metabolize. So artificial estrogens or pseudoestrogens will lock onto the receptor and produce prolonged estrogenic-like effects. And this may be really important with people who don't want high estrogen and estrogenic effects, such as in the hormone-dependent cancers. They are lactose intolerant. Every Chinese, every Japanese, every Far Eastern person does not have milk because they're lactose intolerant. Are they intolerant, question, to unpasteurized milk? And that's interesting, isn't it? Because unpasteurized milk contains a lot of probiotics naturally, which produce lactase, the enzyme which converts lactose into lactic acid. So it'd be interesting to test somebody who's got a real high sensitivity to lactose, a blue one in the round, with what's left of the pasteurized milk, if we've got any left there. Okay? Because I haven't yet had a chance to test anybody with unpasteurized milk who's lactose intolerant. Now, the problem is that cow's milk also contains bovine-like insulin-like growth factor, which is identical to human insulin-like growth factor, making dairy products doubly detrimental to a blue's health. So insulin-like growth factor stimulates growth of tumours. So it's not the cause, but it stimulates the growth of tumours. So drinking milk with insulin-like growth factor may be an issue which helps promote the growth, not the cause. We'll come to the causes in a minute. They have difficulty in detoxifying mercury. So we saw that even in an old blue case like Sally. Okay, there it was. She became blue for, I think it's ever since she lived in Denmark. You should come back to live in England. It's much healthier. Okay, and it's interesting because as we move into that, well, I was just saying to Sally at the beginning, Denmark had the highest cancer rates in the whole of Europe. In fact, it's not the whole of Europe, it's the whole of the world, isn't it now? Yeah, I think Denmark, yeah, especially breast cancer. What? Yeah. They have difficulty in detoxifying mercury and so must be aware of leaking mercury fillings and never take fish oil supplements. Remember, fish oil concentrates the mercury in there, and because the fish can't detoxify the mercury, so it stores it in its fat, and when that fat is purified out as the omega-3 oils, that's where the mercury is. Okay? High fructose syrup, corn syrup, is also a big source of mercury. More for the Americans. We don't have high fructose corn syrup so much in this country. But in America, it's in everything. And it's very high in mercury because they use the mercury in with the herbicide or pesticide, I think it is, that they use on the corn crops. They have poor detoxification enzyme expression for the breakdown of alcohol, which I talked about this morning. It's not that they can't detoxify, it's just it's slow. The alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme, you know, they've got the short straw, the third allele, the one that doesn't work very well. So they can detoxify because you need to be able to detoxify alcohol because we make alcohol anyway in the gut. If we didn't be able to detoxify, we'd be just blind drunk all the time. So they must drink it in moderation, and some prefer not to because they don't feel very good. So they say, well, actually, I'm not that interested. And the real reason is they don't feel very good on it because it poisons them. They are often sensitive to tyramine foods. Tyramine is the oxidized form of tyrosine, which occurs in aging food, particularly when it's, in soya, mature cheeses. You know, they have great difficulty with the old cheeses, the old cheddars and the blue cheeses. Chocolate, aging bananas, and avocados going brown, which gives rise to migraine headaches. This is why migraine people find that these are very, very sensitive. Sometimes just taking them off the tyramine foods is enough. But identifying all the tyramine foods can be quite difficult. Also intolerant. In fact, I've never found a migraine patient who isn't blue, doesn't weaken to blue. Even if it's only on one eye, but they've still got that blue characteristic of the sensitivity to tyramine. They're also intolerant to aspartame and MSG, the artificial flavourings. So again, they're somewhat chemically sensitive, not as chemically sensitive as the green, but they have their own range of chemicals, unfortunately, which they're very insensitive to. Intolerances, we said all dairy products, but they may be better with goat and sheep. Soya products are good. They tolerate soya, like people from the Far East, very well. Green and reds don't tolerate soya so well. So soy proteins are not so good for the green and the red. Emotions they tend to have, unconscious emotions, are not feeling loved, which doesn't help them very much when it comes to their health issues because they don't feel loved. And this is universal. Every blue person will weaken to this. So the blue body type, there's the shorter, hairier man on the left, just in case you couldn't tell which was which. And there's the, what did you call this girl? Busty girl. The busty girl on the right. So they're well endowed from the estrogen point of view. I wanted to picture Dolly Parton there, but you came up with that one. Small hands with tapered fingers. Okay, see the small hands with the tapered fingers. Okay, women 5'5" and below, men possibly 5'6", but below. Diet, they tend to have low stomach acid, and so they're more suitable to a vegetarian, dairy-free diet. Okay, it doesn't mean they can't have meat, but they often choose not to have very much. If you look at the Far Eastern diet, they have small amounts over a period of time rather than tucking into a large steak. They're natural more grazers. Small portions of protein spread throughout the day, organic foods where possible because of the pesticides and herbicides. Supplements, again, B1 they need definitely. Folic acid and B12 and choline. Remember that's the lipotrophic factor. On the minerals, again, boron for the bone density. These really need the magnesium. Now, magnesium, I found, also comes up a lot with the heart. Magnesium is a very important part of the nerve contraction. The electrical potential is generated by the magnesium-potassium ratios. And a lot of people are magnesium deficient in relationship to the heart. Magnesium is a vasodilator. Calcium is a vasoconstrictor. Okay? So getting the ratio of calcium to magnesium right is very important. Again, most of the people respond better to the magnesium in the form of the most ionizable type, which is the chloride, magnesium chloride, and sulfate. Okay? Now, we citrify all our minerals to get them into the Krebs cycle, into the citric acid cycle, and citric acid acts as an allosteric effector to absorb it across the intestines quicker and more efficiently. So when you mix the sulfates and the chlorides with the citric acid, you end up with a beautiful solution, 100% soluble, and then you can work it out. The only downside is that some people need 20 squirts 2 or 3 times a day. So they're going to go through a big bottle quite quickly. So we have made it now into a capsule. Okay? So the person who needs a lot, they can undo the capsule if they want and just put it into water and stir it round. And it's as good as the liquid then. Or they can just swallow the capsule with plenty of water. Okay? So some people said, oh, what happens when I go on holiday? I'd rather have capsules. And then other people say, I can't swallow capsules. You know, I gag every time I have a capsule. And that's just not children, it's women and men. A lot of men say they can't swallow them either. And so that's why we predominantly do liquids. But now we're doing a range, more or less, of the major things in both forms. So magnesium, you'll find, comes up quite a lot, particularly in relationship to the heart. Selenium, again, more for the glutathione peroxidase. The detoxifying of the estrogens is dependent upon glutathione peroxidase. Sulfur, they need the sulfur for the joints. You can use here MSM. We now do MSM in capsules as well as in liquid form. And zinc, of course, which is important for the repair of tissue all round. Oils, predominantly omega-3 here. You'll see we've got flax, which is 66% omega-3, pumpkin seed and walnut, which are between 10 and 20%. Beautiful range of oils, really, but they're predominantly the omega-3 oils. So your green is more the omega-6, blue is the omega-3, and red is omega-3, 6 and 9. Okay, so that's the way to remember it. So again, don't cook with those. Use a neutral oil, which could be olive for them, but if you've got a red person in the family, then go to sunflower and things. So all oils must be organic, used in the evening meal, never cook with these, and avoid fish oils due to the mercury. We'll talk a little bit more about fish oils because there was a big thing, do you remember about 3 months ago, and prostate cancer with fish oils? And I thought, it's just what I've been saying. After a year or so, they suddenly caught up with this and saying eating fish oils may not be as good as what they thought it was. Herbs and spices, basil, coriander, dill. Again, big detoxifiers, coriander or cilantro, very good for detoxifying metals, and the main metal, of course, being mercury for these people. But I would add in here, look for alpha-lipoic acid. Whenever, like Sally, alpha-lipoic acid comes up, think metals. Okay? Beautiful hot spices. You ask these people whether they like spices, and they all say yes, because they're blue. They're sort of genetically from the Far East. They love the hot spices. So chili, cinnamon, paprika are the main ones that they love. So very few parasites will survive chili, cinnamon and paprika. When that comes down the tubes, they get out of it. And what I like about these spice capsules is you can actually open them up and put them on your food. Okay? But I would try, when you're using these things more medicinally rather than culinary, put them onto the food cold, because a lot of the time heating destroys the active ingredients in herbs and spices. So if you heat with them and you cook with them, you may not get all the active ingredients. A lot of those are oils, aromatic oils, and these are very volatile. They boil off during the heating process. So when you've made your mix or whatever, open your capsule up and stir it in at the end. Don't put it in to actually cook with all the way through. So a lot of people say, oh, fabulous, you know, I love those. Can I open it up and just put it on the food? So the answer is yes. So that's the blue. Weight gain. Weight gain is all estrogen. Estrogen is the one that deposits fat. But interestingly, we know that there's 3 types of estrogens, 1, 2 and 3, estrone, estradiol and estriol, and it deposits it in different directions. Okay, so with the male tends to put the apple shape on, so the belly gets really big and they get more rotund, but it's mainly the belly, the apple shape here. With the females, it could be E1, which is estrone, is generally... no, sorry, that's around the wrong way. So this one should be E2. I'll correct that. Is that in your manuals? This one should be E1. It's the pear shape. This is the pear shape one, Gary, isn't it? That one. So it's the pear shape with the bigger hips and the bigger thighs. So the pear shape is E1 or estrone. E2 is estradiol, the normal estrogen. So this is a weight gain just generally all over. And E3 gives the apple shape. So it's the tummy there. So again, the weight goes on here. So with E1, it's hips and thighs. E2, it's just generally bigger weight gain all over. And E3, it's the tummy. So we've got the pear and the apple there.